Hello, this is Dr. Hassan Abdullah with the course Web Applications Programming, and the topic which we are covering is JavaScript programming. And as per the topic list, that is topic number 11. So this video for this topic consists of 11A, and then there is another video which is 11B. So the difference between 11A and 11B is that in 11A we will be covering some very basic uh, question and answer of JavaScript programming, simple examples. And in 11B we will be looking at some more complex and some other challenging topics. So this video 11A, like other videos, makes use of the supplemental website, which is a personalized learning management system, and it has many features, and some of those features are listed on the screen in front of you, along with the URL where the videos are available, so that you know about those features. In a nutshell, it has strong search capability, basic search and advanced search, which is not there in other popular learning management systems, which I would not like to take their name. So you can perform flexible search, and you can perform search by fixing the order of the keywords also. For example, data structure unordered versus data structure ordered. So the number of results vary. And of course, the results are also highlighted. And then is the visual disability support. If the user has some visual disability, then the user can set the font size, color, line spacing, and so on, so as to make that person comfortable with the desired environment. So that is not there in many popular learning management systems. And then there is the hierarchy. So the all the content is presented in a very organized manner so as to facilitate your learning. First is the statement. You click on the statement, you see the bullets about that statement, and then you look at the detailed answer about those bullets are explained. And then there could be a diagram if needed, and there are references also. And then of course you can also test yourself. There are practice exams, practice quizzes which are graded, which tells you the correct answer, and which also explain the solution to you. And you can take those exams multiple times, and it is all recorded. The average is presented, the analysis is done for you, and then the content is designed in such a manner that it works with different types of devices, a tablet or a laptop or a PC or a mobile phone, and even if the mobile phone is rotated. And then of course you can track your progress also, that what you have done, what you have not done, so that you know what needs to be done. And of course that helps in assimilation of knowledge. Now the approach, the learning approach adopted in this course and all the courses which are using this learning management system is the question and answer based approach. So the concepts are presented in the form of a question, and then you are challenged to answer that question. So what is the advantage is it's a proactive approach. So it challenges you, unlike just a passive approach of presenting something and then going into some description and so on. Number one is that advantage. Number two is engaging. It is kind of an interactive approach. The system asks you a question and you come up with the answer, and you look at the explanation, and then you in the process you learn also. And of course in an adaptability is there, and because we are directly looking at the real world problems, and those real world problems are presented in the form of questions. And of course it's the critical thinking also. It's not a passive approach. Critical thinking, and we are much better than machines in thinking. So therefore this approach is adopted of thinking, right? Challenging you to think. And of course then there's the advantages of traditional approach also, when facts have to be presented. So this approach which we have adopted here is the best of both worlds. So this is the topic list, and we are at topic number 11 right here, JavaScript programming. And this topic is presented in the form of 13 questions and answers, and every question and answer is a concept. So you can see by the color coding that first we will cover 11A, shown in yellow color, and then we'll be covering 11B, which is in shown in blue color. And of course we will go into detail of all of these things. And now we move on to the supplemental website from here. So now we look at the first set of Q&A for JavaScript, and we start with the first question, which is what is the significance of JavaScript in web applications programming? So if you click on it, so these are the main points which are going to be discussed in this Q&A. And as you can see there, the reading time is like a lot more than 5 minutes. So instead of going over all of the material which you can actually read, which is given at over here, so what I'll do is I will briefly go over these bullets for you, and then you can go on and read all the details. And of course there are references available also. So what is the significance? One of the significance of JavaScript is client side scripting. So what is meant by client-side scripting? It means that the code runs in the user's browser because the user is the client and the browser is the client also. And what is the benefit? The benefit is that running JavaScript at the client end enables dynamic updates. So things are updated dynamically without going to the server. And what things can happen or are happening, for example, input validation. So for example, if there's a text box for age and text is entered instead of the age, so that is the validation. And interactive elements without needing to contact the server for every user action. For example, there are examples also within this topic, say for example password. So the password has to have certain characteristics, and if they are met, then of course there is a certain message in green color which you will be doing, and if those requirements are not met, then there's a different message in different color. Then is asynchronous programming with Ajax. Asynchronous programming with Ajax. So what it does is that it allows web pages to send and retrieve data from a server asynchronous, right? And what how it helps, it enables the content update without reloading the entire page. Because if the entire page is reloaded, then of course some things are reloaded which which did not needed to be reloaded, or which were already reloaded. So that increases the loading time and of course that increases the traffic on the net also, and decreases the performance. So what is the overall result of asynchronous programming with Ajax? Is that improvement in the performance and the improvement in the user experience. Then is interactivity and user experience, which is kind of similar to second point, but what we are looking at using JavaScript is to having a responsive web page. And if the web page is responsive, then we are able to engage the user through the interface, through animations and other those things. So the longer the user is on our page, the better chance is that we can get, if we are, say, for example, selling something, a product or a service, there's a good chance, better chance of converting that visit into something. Then, of course, interactivity and user experience, and it also allows real-time feedback also. So instead of waiting for clicking something and then that request going to the server all over the internet, and then it is being resolved at the server and the result coming back, which takes like ages in the context of how things are moving. So this basically results in a real-time feedback. And of course, with this kind of experience, we can have intuitive navigation, and that enhances the user satisfaction, and it increases the usability of the product, and the visitors stay longer on the page. Then is the cross platform compatibility. So this JavaScript helps and ensures that the web applications function consistently across different browsers. So we are not limited to, I would not like to name any browser because all of the browsers are my favorite. So there are quite a few browsers, right? And there are quite a few operating systems, and there are quite a few devices also, right? It could be a laptop, it could be a PC, it could be a tablet, it could be a smartphone, it could be something else also. So this JavaScript basically this ensures cross-platform compatibility, and that compatibility consists of the different combinations of the browser, the operating system, and the devices. So it's quite complex. Then is dynamic content loading. So updates parts of a web page, not the entire page. Updates part of a web page with new data. Okay. And where does that new data comes from? From user actions or server responses also, right? And what is the result? The result is the improvement in speed. And when the speed is, how the speed is improved? The speed is improved by reducing the unnecessary reloading, right? So this unnecessary reloading increases the performance. Number five, we have covered. Now we move on to number six, frameworks and libraries. So we have pre-built collection of code like React, Angular, or jQuery, right? And that simplifies the coding, right? And of course promotes best practices and reduces the amount of code the users and the programmers have to write manually. And now we have AI to do a lot of the manual work also. So and of course, so basically it cuts down on the work. So the programmer spends more time doing creative work instead of doing laborious work. Then is web API integration. So it JavaScript helps connects web applications With what? With external services or with data sources, right? And I believe it's in topic number 15. You can read the data about the weather from different websites using APIs and display them in a certain way. So and of course using WebSockets, and this is ideal for what? For messaging and collaborative tools and live dashboards. So the weather information comes live, and of course you can also look and get APIs to display many other things. For example, the price of commodities, the price of stock, and so on. And then are the real-time applications for which JavaScript is used. Uh, Techniques like, for example, instant updates on live data using technologies like WebSockets that we've covered. Security features are there, but they are not the forte of JavaScript. Okay, so there are tools like HTTPS authentication, input validation, of course. So, but that is there. Of course, that is more than HTML. So that's why we have discussed it. So these are the points, and these are more details about all of these points. And I would strongly urge you to read all of this, watch the video, and if you are interested, these are the references for additional reading. Students always ask me, where can we get more? So here's more, right? Now, clearly describe what 5 things JavaScript can do and cannot do. Okay. So these are those 5 things, right? And of course, as before, when we go to view description, there is more detail. So there is like 5.5 minutes of reading material at a certain reading speed. So there are a lot of content available here. So I'll briefly go over these 5 points, okay, which can do and cannot do, and then the rest you have to read, and then you are interested, you go on to the references. Okay, so let's move ahead. What JavaScript can do: manipulate HTML and uh, CSS, cascading style sheets. Okay, and what it does, can access and update HTML elements and styles in real time. So what you had in CSS, that is updated in real time. Okay, and what is the fun of it? It enables interactive web pages. It gives you dynamic web pages, right? So that's the main difference between static stuff and dynamic stuff. And then handle user events like clicks and key presses. So what it does, it can respond to those actions such as clicks, such as mouse movements or key presses, I'm sorry. And corresponding to these, there are responsive user actions to make responsive user interfaces. For example, you move the mouse, and like for example, you can see here, I move the mouse and the color changes. That's JavaScript with CSS. Okay, and maybe if there was a button, the color of the button would also have changed, right? Or I click on something, it pops a box. So those are the handle user events. Make HTTP requests like AJAX and Fetch API. JavaScript can send and receive data from servers asynchronously. Okay, so and not synchronously, asynchronously. So what is the benefit? It allows the pages to be updated, their content updated without needing a full reload, because a full reload is going to kill the performance, right? Validate and modify forms. So this is one of the oldest applications of JavaScript. Checks input fields for correct data formats like email addresses before submission. Okay, and can also modify form values based on the user input. So the user can change the values also. There are quite a few examples in the coming Q&A. Code is there, and you can run this code and see for yourself. Create dynamic content and animations. Create dynamic content and animations. So JavaScript can generate and modify web page elements on the go, on the fly. On the fly means don't have to go to the server, and animate them, create motion, right? And that animation is very smooth. Okay, and it gives an engaging experience. Now everything doesn't have to be animated. Everything doesn't have to be so engaging. It depends on the application, but of course the power is there. So what JavaScript cannot do: access the file system directly outside the browser sandbox. For security reasons, JavaScript in the browser cannot read, write, or access the user's file systems directly. Cannot do, not allowed to do that. Okay. Then of course, cannot interact with the operating system except in specific environments like Node.js. Okay, because the browser-based JavaScript lacks the permissions to perform operating system level tasks. What are those tasks? Like modifying files, like managing processes or accessing system resources and so on. So that is not allowed. And JavaScript cannot perform complex computations which you can routinely do using Python, using C++, okay? And because it is not meant for that kind of applications, and it is not optimized for heavy computational tasks, which are better handled by high performance languages with lower level control. So there's no lower level control in JavaScript. JavaScript is not good for cross platform desktop applications without additional frameworks. So if you want to build desktop applications, JavaScript requires tools like Electron, okay, because it does not natively support desktop environments. And finally, fully secure sensitive data, client side only. Client side JavaScript cannot protect sensitive information. Such data must be handled and secured on the server side. And to be very precise, that server side data is handled at the database servers, which have their own secure system. Depending upon which database you're using, it can be very, very secure. Okay. Now, let's move ahead. And of course, if you would like to know more about it, so here are all these bullets which are discussed in detail, right? And if you're interested, there are the references of additional reading also. So what are JavaScript functions, data types, and give some examples also. So let's move over to that. So basically, we have the functions and we have the primitive types, primitive data types, and we have the complex data types. So what are functions? Functions are reusable code blocks, right? Just like the typical functions. And like any other function, they accept the inputs, then the function has a processing logic, and then a certain output is returned. Now the functions are immutable, okay? Functions themselves are immutable, right? But their internal behavior can manipulate both mutable and immutable data depending upon the context, okay? For example, string, number, boolean, they are immutable, right? So a function can handle those immutable data, right? And like arrays and objects which are mutable, a function can handle those mutables also, okay? So, and of course, that depends upon the context. Primitive types, the primitive types are string, like number, a boolean, undefined symbol, and big integer, and so on. So they all are, these are immutable. What is meant by immutable? Once they are created, their values cannot be changed, okay? So if any modification results, what will result? A new value, okay? So there won't be an alteration of the original value. And then there are the complex data types like objects and arrays which are mutable. Their values can be changed after creation. So we can multiply matrices, we can do other operations on the matrices, we can add or remove properties or elements because they are stored and accessed by reference, not by the value itself. Okay. Now this was not a very complex question. Now, of course, you can read all the details, right? And here are some examples also. So we have the string, right, which is in double quotes, and we have the numbers can be integers and can be floating, and we can have boolean also, and of course uninitialized variables, right? And this is the example where there is different types behave differently depending upon how they are used, right? And then there are the complex types. So this is the example. So, and of course this is the function. So give some examples how JavaScript is used with HTML forms. So JavaScript has traditionally JavaScript has been being used with HTML forms, and one of the oldest applications of JavaScript, which I basically did quite a while ago, was form validation. So what is form validation? Basically, it ensures that the user inputs meet the specific requirements of the form when before the submission. So the server is not going to check those requirements. They are going to be checked at the client end, and such as checking the required fields. So for example, that the field is not empty, right? And correct formats like email or numbers or like date of birth, and enforcing rules to prevent invalid or incomplete data entry. So that is the validation. Then is the submit button control. So what it does, it enables or disables the form's submit button based on the input validity. So for example, if you have not accepted the terms and conditions, so the submit button would not be active. Okay. And of course, what it does is that it reduces the server load and it reduces the validation errors, because all of this is done at the client end. Then number three is data submission without refresh, Ajax. So data submission without refresh, JavaScript is used to send form data to the server in the background. So what happens is that the users stay on the same page without experiencing a full page reload after submitting the form. So the form is there and it is submitted in the background, and the results are displayed. So it gives an impression of fast operation. Dynamic form field manipulation. What it does, it adds, removes, or modifies form fields in real time based on user interactions. Okay. So for example, if I click on something and more results are displayed, more buttons displayed, more options are displayed like this. So dynamic form field manipulation, right? And real-time user feedback. Say for example, you if you fill out a form and there is some error, so an error message comes up, and of course, if you make a mistake, that mistake is caught and the result is given in real time. So now we move on to the last Q&A of this group of Q&A. The last one, which is question number 5. What are the 10 key differences between Java and JavaScript? So what I have experienced, that I have come across many people who think that they are the same, and who think they are not same. They have some issues. So let's start with the execution environment. So a big difference here, because Java runs on the JVM, which is the Java Virtual Machine, and it is used for backend and standalone applications, right? But JavaScript basically runs in the client, which is the browser, and it is used for interactive front-end web development. Because as if you recall previously, we discussed that it is not good for procedural work, the kind of work you can do with those languages like C++ or like Java. So JavaScript cannot do all those things. Static versus dynamic typing. Java uses static typing. It means that the type of the variable is declared, and that type is declared explicitly. On the contrary, JavaScript uses dynamic typing. So what it does is allows the variables to be changed, the change types at runtime. How it is being used, it is depends upon the how what is the type depends upon how it is used. Without the prior declaration, that was the case for procedural language like Java. So of course that makes it very flexible, but it's like a double-edged sword. But it is also prone to a lot of errors also. Then is the support for closures. So JavaScript supports closures. What it means? It means allows inner functions to access outer function variables even after the outer function has executed. Java, on the other hand, traditionally lacks this feature. But of course, that was later added with limited support through lambdas in Java 8. So we have something in JavaScript which is stronger than Java. Okay. Then is the object oriented programming. Java is class based. Java is strictly object oriented language. JavaScript is not object oriented. It supports prototype based object oriented programming, right? So which is not true object oriented. Of course, that offers more flexibility but less structure as compared to the traditional classes and the inheritance model of Java. Then is the compilation versus interpretation. Java code is compiled into bytecode, okay? It's binary and is executed by JVM. JavaScript is interpreted. There's no binary code. One can read the Java code. One cannot read the I'm sorry, one can read the JavaScript, but one cannot read Java. It's in machine code. So JavaScript is just in time compiled by the browser at the runtime. Okay. So what it does, it makes it suitable for a lightweight and immediate execution in a browser. Then write once and run anywhere. Write once, Vora. So Java emphasizes platform independence to JVM. Okay. So it allows compiled code to run on any system that supports JVM. But JavaScript is different. It relies on browser compatibility and standards like ECMA script for cross-platform support. So they're different. Concurrency, Java uses multi-threading. or concurrent execution. So it does, it allows complex background processing, right? So JavaScript uses is event driven. Event driven moves move the mouse is moved, the mouse is clicked, and instead of multi-thread is a single thread model with sync await, right? And of course it promises to concurrency, but that is non-blocking operation. So that is not true concurrency. Use cases: Java is commonly used for enterprise large applications, Android application, and large systems. JavaScript is mainly used for dynamic websites, front end interfaces, and increasingly for server side scripting via the node.js. And then of course there are big differences in syntax also. Although both like C style syntax, but Java requires strict declarations, semicolons, and class definitions. But JavaScript is more forgiving, uses first class functions, and supports looser syntax for quicker scripting. Because again, it is for developing the front end. Performance, of course, Java offers better performance due to JVM optimizations and static typing. JavaScript is fast in modern engines, but is slower for compute heavy duty tasks due to its dynamic nature and single threaded design instead of the multi threaded design. So that's all we have for these five Q&A. Now we'll move on to the next set of five Q&A.